Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. Have you ever wondered what truly happens behind the official statements when something goes wrong in a high-stakes military confrontation? How do we really untangle the facts from the carefully crafted narratives when advanced technology clashes with geopolitical strategy? Today, we're looking into that seemingly murky four-day air war back in early May between India and Pakistan. India sustained some, surprising losses. The Economist piece we're examining tries to piece together what happened. It suggests India's setbacks stemmed from a mix of political rules of engagement and Pakistan's newer Chinese equipment.
Right. And our goal today is really to go beyond just that initial reporting. We need to sift through the fresh evidence, look at the competing explanations, and understand the critical implications. Because this isn't just about India and Pakistan, is it? It has ripple effects for global arms markets, for how future conflicts might play out. We'll explore how the Economist's initial claims stack up against the latest info, but maybe more importantly, what that narrative doesn't quite tell us yet.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, let's start with the human side of it. The story kicks off quite vividly on the night of May 7th. Akalia Kalan, a village in northern India. People there heard this incredible roar, different from the usual jets, then explosions. They saw a ball of flames crash into a cornfield. The wreckage was clearly a fighter. Tragically, 2 bystanders died and 2 Indian pilots injured, found nearby. And that crash, we now know, was just one of several Indian jets lost. Now, India officially disputes Pakistan's claim they said 6 downed planes, including 3 new French Rafales, but foreign military officials seem to believe at least 5 Indian aircraft were destroyed, and yes, at least 1 Rafale among them. Interestingly, Indian military officers have sort of started admitting to losing some aircraft. They're suggesting it might have been down to Indian errors too, not just a tech mismatch.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, is the global significance of this clash. It was basically the first time advanced Chinese fighters and missiles went up against Western and Russian equivalents in actual combat. So America and its allies are watching this very closely, especially thinking about, China potentially using similar weapons in a Taiwan scenario. Early reports, they definitely pointed towards Pakistan's Chinese-made J-10 fighters and their PL-15 missiles being, superior in that initial encounter. India seems to have underestimated them. And there's also been this persistent suggestion, hasn't there, that China might have provided real-time targeting data that could have really tipped the scales.
That focus on the hardware is obviously key. But what seems to be emerging now from newer information is that it wasn't just about the planes or the missiles. What really struck me looking through the reports was how India actually used its own fighters on that critical first night. That seems just as important, maybe more so.
That does raise a crucial question. What new evidence has come out since those first reports that helps us understand this better? Well, on May 8th, pretty quickly after, there was a Reuters scoop. It cited U.S. officials claiming a Pakistani J-10C shot down at least 2 Indian aircraft using those PL-15s, the long-range missiles.
Right. 2 confirmed early on, and then by May 14th, Al Jazeera was reporting Islamabad claiming 5 kills. Delhi pushed back, saying that number was inflated, of course.
Then, a significant moment on May 31st, India's Chief of Defense Staff, General Anil Chauhan, he actually conceded tactical mistakes happened on night 1. This was in a Bloomberg and DTV interview. He disputed the 6-jet count, sure, but admitting tactical mistakes, that's quite something from the top.
Yeah, definitely. And then perhaps the most revealing piece that leaked seminar recording from June 10th. You had India's defense attaché, Captain Shiv Kumar, stating very explicitly that political leaders had banned strikes on Pakistani SAM radars, surface-to-air missile sites. And he said quite clearly, after the loss, we changed our tactics. They started hitting military installations, not just the initial militant targets. That's a huge admission about the initial constraints.
A very direct statement. And then the story moves into the fallout. In July, the Financial Times did an analysis of this J-10 PL-15 debut. They noted it was being hailed in Beijing. The maker's stock, Chengdu Aircraft, shot up 40%, and Newsweek followed up, reporting Chinese diplomats were actively using this incident for arms marketing, even apparently trash-talking the Rafale to potential buyers.
Wow, so the PR battle definitely kicked off immediately.
Oh, yes. It's not just about the battlefield performance, it's about the narrative afterwards.
So, okay, we've got all these pieces. Hardware, tactics, politics, maybe even external help. How do we start to make sense of these competing explanations? What are the main theories?
Well, we can look at maybe 4 main hypotheses, each with some facts supporting it, but also, importantly, some caveats. Hypothesis 1, Chinese hardware edge. Simple enough on the surface. The PL-15 missile has an advertised range, 150 kilometers, maybe more, that significantly outranges the Maya missiles India initially had loaded on the Rafales. Reuters confirmed 2 kills by PL-15s, and crucially, Indian pilots reportedly didn't get launch warnings. That points to a range disadvantage, yes, but also potentially an electronic warfare or intelligence gap.
Okay, that seems pretty clear-cut initially.
Yeah.
But then you mentioned India having more success later. If the Chinese hardware was just flat-out superior, how did that happen? Was it simply switching missiles?
Exactly. That's the big caveat. Later on, the Rafales flew sorties armed with the Meteor missile, which is a much longer-range weapon they could fire from standoff distances. This suggests the Rafale platform itself is still highly competitive if it has the right weapons loaded. It challenges that simple narrative of, inherent Chinese hardware dominance.
Right, so the loadout matters a lot.
Hugely. Which leads to hypothesis 2, Indian tactical and data gaps. Maybe the Rafales flew without Meteors initially. Maybe their electronic warfare libraries weren't up to date for the J-10 PL-15 signatures. Or they just lack sufficient mission data.
And General Chauhan's tactical mistakes comment, plus Captain Kumar talking about the initial rules of engagement, specifically not targeting those SAM sites doing SCAD. That supports this, doesn't it? Plus, foreign officials telling the Financial Times that India underestimated the PL-15. That underestimation seems to be a recurring theme.
It does. But again, caveats. There's no public proof the Rafales lacked effective jammers. And Dassault, the French maker of the Rafale, they were reportedly blocked from a full investigation, and they dispute these kinds of claims pretty strongly. So we still have conflicting accounts there.
Okay. What's the third hypothesis?
Hypothesis 3. Political rules of engagement, ROE, hamstrung the IAF. This theory suggests Delhi wasn't aiming for a fight. They wanted a limited pinprick anti-terror strike, not a full-on operation that would take out Pakistan's air defenses first.
Captain Kumar's leaked audio seems like strong evidence for this, right?
Yeah.
And it does fit with how the Modi government has handled previous escalations, with Pakistan trying to control the latter, so to speak.
Precisely. It aligns with their past doctrine. But the caveat here is the political storm it caused in India. The opposition is crying cover-up, demanding answers, the government refusing a special parliamentary session. It really highlights that tension between civilian control wanting to limit risks and the military needing operational freedom on the ground, or rather, in the air.
A classic civil-military relations issue, really.
Indeed. And finally, hypothesis 4, Chinese real-time support. The idea that the PLA, China's military, might have fed Pakistan, targeting data from over-the-horizon radar or space assets. Data fusion.
Which was hinted at in those Financial Times and Newsweek reports you mentioned. And it would certainly fit with what we know about the PLA's growing ISR capabilities, intelligence, surveillance, reconnaissance. It paints a picture of a very modern networked battlefield.
It does. The big challenge here, though, is proof. Delhi, Beijing, Islamabad, they're all completely silent on this. There's no hard open-source intelligence to confirm it yet. It remains a strong possibility, maybe even probable to some analysts, but it's not proven.
Okay, so those are the main lines of explanation. But what are the big unknowns? What evidence are we still missing that would really help clarify things?
Well, for starters, the exact loss count. Independent analysts can really only confirm 3 crash sites inside India. There's talk of a 4th jet down inside Pakistan, but that's still unverified. So the numbers themselves are still a bit fuzzy.
Right, not the 6 Pakistan claimed, maybe not even the 5 some officials suggested.
Possibly. Then there's the question of PL-15 invincibility. It clearly had an impact on day 1. But on days 3 and 4, India did strike Pakistani bases with cruise missiles like Sakal-P and BrahMos. That implies Pakistan's air defenses, including possibly those SAM sites, were degraded by then. So the PL-15 isn't necessarily an unbeatable silver bullet in every situation. Tactics adapted.
And what about the Rafale itself? Is it truly vulnerable?
That's the other big question. Rafale vulnerability. It's important to remember that Rafales flown by France, Egypt, Qatar, India, they all have different, often bespoke, electronic warfare software libraries. It's possible India's specific configuration, maybe software choices or training, rather than the core airframe, was the weak link in that initial encounter. Dassault's chairman, Eric Treppier, he flatly called Pakistan's claims of downing 3 Rafales simply untrue. He said, "When the complete details are known, the reality may surprise many," and insisted the Rafale is far better than anything China currently offers. Unquote. And back in France, there's pressure, too. A French MP, Marc Chavant, has publicly questioned the performance of the Rafale's Spectra electronic warfare system. It's potentially the first combat loss ever for a Rafale, so naturally there are questions being asked.
So lots of layers, lots of competing claims still swirling around. This whole situation, though, clearly has much broader stakes than just this one skirmish. What are the ripple effects we should be thinking about?
Oh, absolutely. There are at least three major ones. First, the arms export narratives. Beijing isn't wasting any time. They're actively marketing the J-10C fighter and the PL-15E missile, the export variant, to buyers in the Gulf and Southeast Asia. And they're using this May scorecard, or their version of it, as proof of concept. This directly hits Dassault's prospects, especially that potential huge deal for 114 more Rafales for India, valued at maybe $20 billion. That deal looks a lot less certain now. It's a high-stakes marketing war.
A huge deal potentially impacted. What else?
Second, that internal rules of engagement debate within India. The political opposition is demanding a probe. Did civilian leadership override the military's assessment of risk to the point of causing unnecessary losses? This is a really sensitive issue, especially as India plans for a potential two-front situation involving both Pakistan and China. How much risk are political leaders willing to accept?
A critical question for their strategic planning. And the third ripple effect.
The tech lessons for Taiwan. This is perhaps the most direct strategic implication globally. If China's ISR network really did help Pakistan build kill chains so effectively, that same architecture could potentially do the same across the Taiwan Strait. It underscores why Taipei is pushing so hard for its own counter-ISR capabilities, for decoys, for anything that can disrupt that potential Chinese advantage in sensing and targeting. They're watching this very closely.
Absolutely. And amidst all this high-level strategy and tech talk, we shouldn't forget the starting point. Back in Akalia Kalan village, the human cost. Raj Kumar Singh killed by head injuries from a blast, leaving a family behind. Villagers saying authorities seem to want to just, quote, bury news of this crash. It's a stark reminder that behind the analyses and the headlines, these events have very real, often tragic consequences for ordinary people.
It really does bring it back down to earth, doesn't it? So, wrapping up these shootdowns, it's clear they weren't a simple story of Chinese jets beat French jets. Far from it. The evidence points more towards a cocktail of factors. India's self-imposed targeting restrictions on day one, combined perhaps with some unfamiliarity with the J-10PL-15's actual capabilities, that seems to have given Pakistan a fleeting advantage. And China's sensor fusion, if it happened, might have sharpened that edge considerably.
But crucially, once India changed tactics, got the meteors loaded, used standoff attack profiles, maybe went after those radars, that initial Pakistani advantage seemed to fade. For strategists, for policymakers looking at this, it's a pretty stark warning, isn't it? In that critical first salvo of a conflict, human rules, political decisions, and data preparation can matter every bit as much as the hardware specifications on paper.
It really makes you think, in this world of increasingly connected high-tech warfare, how much does the absolute cutting edge of a weapon system really matter when politics, tactics, and sheer human adaptability can swing the outcome so profoundly?
Something to mull over until next time.